Chapter 390. At sunset, Sauter was bustling with activity. After Gu Mengmeng promised Cole again and again that she would not give him any chance to get close, Elvis and Leah finally allowed her to go out to settle some serious matters. There was an empty space near Sauter's deity platform. Cole had specially ordered people to clean it up because Gu Mengmeng wanted to hold a recruitment event. Gu Mengmeng actually felt a little apologetic. She was complaining about not wanting to be the messenger of the beast deity while enjoying their preferential treatment and service. But she had no choice. They had already cleaned up the place and she did not want to use it just to draw a clear line between them. That would make her look like she did not know what was good for her. So Gu Mengmeng decided to enjoy this 5-star service first. At most, she would leave some room fees for them when she left. With that thought, Gu Mengmeng felt at ease. The males had already placed their prey in the designated area in front of them. Most of them had 2 or 3 beasts as their prey. Occasionally, there would be a few who only had 1 prey, but it was obviously rare. But one of them was very special. The prey in front of him was piled up like a small mountain. Gu Mengmeng tilted her head and asked Elvis, "Who is that person? Do you know him? Why does he have so many prey?" Elvis replied in a low voice, "Oriton, from the White Tiger tribe. He does not belong to any tribe and attends the beauty pageant every year. Many females have expressed their desire to mate with him, but strangely, he has never been attracted to any female and never expressed interest in any tribe. Nina had tried to drug him in the past but to no avail." Gu Mingming's gossipy spirit was ignited and she asked with stars in her eyes, "Drug? Do you still have that kind of drug here?" Elvis's gaze landed on Lee's face. Gu Mengmeng followed Elvis's gaze and saw Leah turning his head away awkwardly. He said in an uneasy tone, "He is indeed a capable male. For the sake of the tribe, I naturally wish for him to join us." So you and Nina cooperated in a badger game to scheme against him." Gu Mingming's face was full of disdain. Leah did not know what a badger game was, but he knew it was definitely not something good. So he frowned and said seriously, "I only gave Nina a piece of beast skin with the fox seductive fragrance on it and told her to rub it on him or herself when she gets close to Oriton to seduce him. And then? Gu Mengmeng continued asking. Leah sighed. "Isn't the result obvious? If Nina had succeeded, why would Oriton still be standing here?" Gu Mengmeng twitched her lips and said, "That's true, but luckily, such a good cabbage was not taken by that wild chicken Nina." Elvis asked coldly, "You're interested in him?" "Yes." Gu Mengmeng replied without hesitation, "Leah already said that he's a strong male and will be a very strong fighting force after joining the tribe." Elvis sneered, his gaze piercing straight at Oriton like a knife. Smiling devilishly, he moved his shoulders and said, "Looks like I have to accept my first challenge after mating." "What?" Gu Mengmeng was dumbfounded by the murderous look on Elvis's face. Chapter 391. Hey, he wants to join our tribe so sincerely, why do you want to kill him?" Gu Mingming's face was full of fear as she held onto Elvis's arm. "Look, this world is so beautiful but you are so hot-tempered. This is not good, not good." Elvis squinted his eyes as he exuded a dangerous aura. He rubbed Gu Mingming's hair gently and said, "You are pleading for him. Your heart aches." Gu Mengmeng said, "Hubby, talents are hard to come by." Elvis said, "Then, where do you want to place his mark?" Gu Mengmeng was stunned for a moment before she slapped Elvis's shoulder angrily. "What the hell are you talking about? I am talking to you about strengthening the tribe, not strengthening the harem." Elvis grabbed onto Gu Mingming's wrist and pulled lightly, causing her entire body to fall into his arms. After teasing her like a cat for a while, Elvis then said, "What if the condition for him to join the tribe is to mate with you?" Gu Mengmeng felt helpless and thought to herself, "Who has a phone to lend me?" I will go on Baidu and post a post called "Hubby Loves Me Too Much, What Should I Do?" He feels that all the males in the world have something to do with me. It's quite urgent, waiting online. Elvis saw that Gu Mengmeng did not speak and the evil fire in his heart burned even brighter. He glanced sideways at Orton and sneered. I think we should just kill him. Leah agreed. Sigh, the battle power of a peak third level is so similar to you in the past. What a pity, let's just kill him. Gu Mengmeng felt a chill down her spine. In the years before she came, the rapport they had developed actually included this kind of perverted teamwork to kill a suspected love rival. Sighing, Gu Mengmeng patted their shoulders. I heard that males in the beast world have extremely good hearing. Elvis nodded and did not say anything. His face was still sullen. Gu Mengmeng continued. Do you think he can hear you two standing so close to each other discussing killing him? Elvis and Leah sneered. If he is not deaf, he should be able to hear us. Gu Mengmeng asked again. You know he can hear us, why are you two still talking? Elvis used his fingers to lift Gu Mengmeng's little face and said with a faint smile, because he's a male that you've taken a fancy to, so we're giving him the last bit of mercy. If you still have a shred of self-awareness, you should run away now. The corners of Gu Mengmeng's lips twitched. She would never understand the world of males. Hubby, how about this? If the condition for him to join the tribe is to mate with me, then we don't want this person. My tribe lacks warriors, but my family doesn't lack men. But if he doesn't mean it at all, and it's just the two of you making wild guesses, then let's take 2 deep breaths and forget everything that happened just now, okay? Elvis harumphed and turned to look at Orton. He curled his lips and said, Leah, look at the way he's looking at Xiao Mang. Isn't it familiar? Leah nodded. It's exactly the same as the way you looked at Meng Meng back then. Elvis said, it's exactly the same as how you look at Xiao Mang now. Chapter 392. The sun had already set below the horizon and the agreed time had been reached. Those males who had yet to return did not count. Gu Mengmeng sat on Elvis's shoulders and allowed him to carry her. She looked down at the males who had returned from hunting like a queen patrolling. Needless to say, Orton definitely had the most prey. It was a difference that could be seen with the naked eye and did not need to be measured. Gu Mengmeng patted Elvis's shoulders and gestured for him to put her down. After getting down, Gu Mengmeng walked directly to Orton and asked, You came back earlier than most of the others. How did you manage to get so many prey? Orton curled his lips at Gu Mengmeng. He could barely call it a smile that resembled the expression a high school hooligan would make when he blackmailed a junior. Although it was a little creepy, since the corners of his lips were curled up, it should be a smile. Seeing Gu Mengmeng's strange expression, Orton kept his awkward smile and returned to his usual expressionless face. I guarded Sauter's entrance and everyone who returns has to give me half of their prey. If not, I will kill them and snatch all their prey. Orton looked at Gu Mengmeng and said, I am guarding the entrance of Sauter. Gu Mengmeng was so shocked that her jaw almost dropped. No wonder that blackmailing expression just now was so on point. TSK. Gu Mengmeng felt like she was the reincarnation of Sun Wukong. She turned back to look at Elvis, only to realize that Elvis and Leah were smiling in each other's eyes. She tugged at Elvis's arm and asked, Did you do this before? Elvis nodded his head gladly and admitted it. He even felt a little proud. Leah swung his large tail lightly and wrapped it around Gu Mengmeng's waist. He knew what Gu Mengmeng was thinking about, so he took the initiative to explain, to be able to snatch prey from other males, it proves that he is more powerful than the one being snatched. Looking at the number, he must have felt that he would definitely win before stopping. And until he stopped, he did not lose, or else these prey would have been snatched away by others long ago. With his skills, he would definitely win even if he went out to hunt directly. But he chose this method, looks like his true motive was to show you his skills. Oh. Gu Mengmeng replied, not fully understanding. She was still thinking to herself, damn it, males have always behaved like birds since ancient times. Their brain circuits were really strange. What made them mistakenly believe that the fiercer they were and the better they fought, the more girls would like them? Gu Mengmeng smacked her lips and thought to herself, compared to the hooligans in school, the Prince Charming Senior from the swimming club is clearly more likable. Every day, she only wore a pair of swimming trunks and soaked in the water. The moment she came out of the water, the sparkling water splashed everywhere. Hiss, it really made people salivate. Xiao Meng. Elvis's face darkened as he called Gu Mengmeng's consciousness back. Gu Mengmeng wiped off her saliva and realized that she was drooling at Oritin because she was thinking about something else. Damn it, it was even harder to explain now. Elvis would definitely think that she had taken a liking to this white tiger. Gu Mengmeng sighed. She thought to herself that a clean slate would be clean on its own, so she asked, since you are the one with the most prey today, I will represent Saint Nazir to extend an invitation to you. Welcome to Saint Nazir. Oritin was silent for a moment, his face still as cold as ice. He said expressionlessly, I want to be your guardian beast. I will only be willing to join Saint Nazir if you agree. Aside from the topic, previously, someone asked me why I said it to be a senior from the swimming club and not the basketball club or the street dance club. Usually, the boys from these two clubs seem to be more popular in school. The answer is that when I was writing the outline of this article, it was during the Olympic Games. Chapter 393. Gu Mengmeng's body went limp and she almost fell. Was it because Elvis was too petty and jealous? Was it because of the sixth sense that males develop from the pressure of competition? But, what's a guardian beast? Gu Mengmeng turned her head and looked at Leah. Leah swayed his large tail and said, look, someone like me who is handsome and knows how to please you but is not qualified to mate with you is called a beast pet, a plaything beside your knees. You can call me and order me to leave. Leah swayed his large tail and said, I'm not qualified to mate with you. Gu Mengmeng immediately waved her hands and said, go, 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 go. But Leah smiled. He held on to Gu Mengmeng's little hand and circled it from her left to her right. Then, he leaned forward and leaned towards Gu Mengmeng. He grinned and said, see, you can order them around, right? Gu Mengmeng faked a smile and gave up on the treatment. She waited for Leah to continue. Leah, guardian beast is also a type of family member, but its position is lower than the beast pet. It's the first line of defense for females. When they encounter any danger, they will be the first to block in front and fight for time for the females and other family members. But, because they don't know how to please females, they usually don't even have the chance to enter the cave. Mating is even more impossible. To put it bluntly, they are just guards of the cave entrance. Gu Mengmeng looked at Oritin awkwardly and whispered to Leah, can't you be more tactful with your words? It hurts my pride. Pride? Leah repeated Gu Mengmeng's last two words. Then, he smiled and moved his flirtatious face to Gu Mengmeng. His furry large tail swept against her calf from time to time and he said in an ambiguous and affectionate voice, what's the use of pride for males in front of females? Look at how Elvis and I have degenerated into acting as half-orcs to please you. Gu Mengmeng then realized that ever since she rubbed Elvis's tail once when she was pregnant, he had never kept his tail. She could always grab it and hug it in her arms. When she was sitting, it was the armrest. When she was lying down, it was a warm blanket. When she was standing, it was a toy in her hands. When she was doing OXX, it was a sex toy. She was used to Elvis's tail being by her side and had forgotten that only half-orcs would have beast characteristics. Elvis, had people been pointing at his back and laughing at him for being a half-orc? How could he have never noticed this? Gu Mengmeng hugged Elvis guiltily and said, keep your tail, you're clearly not a half-orc, Elvis smiled. It's enough that you know I'm not a half-orc. But they will laugh at you, Elvis replied, I don't care what they think. Gu Meng Meng hugged Elvis's waist and pouted. Hubby, you will spoil me like this. Elvis said, other females have a few or even dozens of males coaxing them, but you only have me. Since they couldn't compete in quantity, they could only compete in quality. You said that only a qualitative change could lead to a qualitative change. So, what other females have? I can't let you have less. Gu Meng Meng was so touched that she was filled with love. She whimpered, Hubby, you are so nice. Chapter 394. Oriton was silent for a moment before replying, It's impossible that there are only 2 males beside the messenger of the beast deity. Elvis narrowed his eyes and his murderous aura started to spread. Oriton did not know if it was because he could not feel Elvis's murderous aura, or because he was too confident in himself, or because he simply had facial paralysis. Anyway, his reaction to the dangerous aura released by Elvis was, no reaction. The two of them stared straight into each other's eyes and Gu Meng Meng felt immense pressure standing in the middle. She did not know how long the two of them were going to stare at each other. Just as Gu Meng Meng was prepared to retreat a little and look at the other prey, Oriton suddenly spoke, I have no intention of mating with the messenger of the beast deity, so you don't have to be so guarded against me. Elvis sneered in disdain. Do you think my Meng Meng likes you? Ha! Oriton was still expressionless. He looked at Elvis, then at Gu Meng Meng, before nodding his head silently. Ha! Gu Meng Meng hurriedly waved her hands and said, I didn't mean that, you misunderstood. Oriton was still expressionless. Although his eyes were looking in Gu Meng Meng's direction, they did not seem to be focused. He said, you just tried to convince your males not to kill me. Gu Meng Meng, Oriton, you even praised me as a good cabbage, and felt lucky that I didn't mate with other females. Gu Meng Meng, Oriton, you even deliberately told me that if I want to join your family, I can't be interested in you. Gu Meng Meng waved her hands and said, no, I didn't say that. Oriton was silent for a moment, then pinched his throat and looked at Elvis, as if he was imitating someone. Hubby, how about this? If the condition for him to join the tribe is to mate with me, then we don't want this person. My tribe lacks warriors, but my family doesn't lack men. But if he doesn't mean it at all, and it's just the two of you making wild guesses, then let's take 2 deep breaths and forget everything that happened just now, okay? The corners of Gu Meng Meng's mouth twitched. She had a feeling that she could not explain herself. After Oriton finished speaking, he returned to his normal tone and said, Didn't you say that just now to tell me that if I want to join your clan, I can't be interested in you? If you tell me how to join your family, doesn't that mean that you like me? Gu Meng Meng. She really admired the way the males in the beast world thought. Oriton, also, you defended my dignity in front of your pet. Gu Meng Meng turned to look at Leah in a daze. Leah shrugged his shoulders and nodded helplessly, indicating that Gu Meng Meng had indeed done that. Then, Oriton continued, also, you looked at me for a long time just now, and even drooled. Pfft. Gu Meng Meng raised her head and asked the heavens, can I choose to vomit blood and die now? Gu Meng Meng gestured for him to stop and said, I can explain about drooling, that wasn't because of you. I was just lost in thought and thought of a handsome swimsuit JPG, it has nothing to do with you, you've misunderstood. The moment Gu Meng Meng finished her sentence, she felt a chill on her back. Stiffening her neck, she turned around and saw Elvis and Lee's sinister smile, handsome, swimsuit. JPG. Aside from the topic, Gu Meng Meng, sobs, hubby, I can explain. Chapter 395. Gu Meng Meng chuckled and licked her lips, saying, so many people are watching, leave me some face. Elvis nodded and said, "All right, we'll talk about it when we get back tonight." "All right." Gu Meng Meng pounced into Elvis's arms and kissed him on the cheek, saying, "So sweet, no wonder you're my hubby." Elvis chuckled and gently caressed Gu Meng Meng's little head. The corners of his lips curled up, but his voice was so calm that there was no fluctuation. "There's no use trying to please me. You have to explain clearly to me about the swimsuit, Prince Charming." Gu Meng Meng sighed and really wanted to give herself 2 tight slaps. Why did she have to mention the swimsuit, Prince Charming? Leah also gave a fake smile and moved closer to Gu Meng Meng's ear, saying, "Yeah, I also really want to know, how does that Prince Charming look like?" Gu Meng Meng laughed guiltily and said, "Let's get down to business first, all right? Everyone's waiting." Elvis and Leah exchanged glances before looking at Oriton, saying, "If your condition is to become Xiao Meng's guardian beast, then we can only take it that you have given up on this spot. Unfortunately, you and Saint Nazir are not fated." Oriton's face was still expressionless and one could not tell if he was disappointed or angry. He just looked at Elvis quietly and after a long while, he said, "You're the tribe leader but she's the messenger of the beast deity. You can't make decisions for her." Elvis raised his eyebrows and sneered, saying, "To join Xiao Meng's family, even if you're just a guardian beast, you have to pass my test. How long do you think you can last in front of me?" Oriton thought about it seriously for a moment before shaking his head and said, "I don't know, I can try." Elvis handed Gu Meng Meng over to Leah and stretched his neck to both sides as a warm-up. Then, he walked towards Oriton step by step. Was he going to fight? I. Gu Meng Meng called out twice, successfully attracting their attention. Being stared at by 2 pairs of bloodthirsty eyes, Gu Meng Meng still felt pressured. Timidly, she extended her arms towards Elvis and said, "Hubby, hug." Elvis was taken aback for a moment before he laughed out helplessly. He turned back and carried Gu Meng Meng from Lee's arms. He tapped Gu Meng Meng's little nose lightly and said, "Are you that scared that I will kill him?" Gu Meng Meng shook her head and said, "We agreed that you will only fight with males that I approve of. He is not someone that I approve of, so don't waste your energy." Elvis was stunned for a moment before his smile became even more radiant. He whispered into her ear, "Tonight, is there anything that requires me to conserve my energy?" Gu Meng Meng blushed. I. Elvis nodded and said, "I understand, of course it's you." Gu Meng Meng felt hopeless. Heavens, earth, she really didn't mean it that way. Elvis protected Gu Meng Meng in his arms and turned to look at Oriton, saying, "You heard it with your own ears, Xiao Meng said that you are not someone that she approves of. So, don't mention about guardian beasts anymore. If you're not willing to join Saint Nazir, we won't force you." Oriton tilted his head and looked at Gu Meng Meng who was in a dilemma. He asked, "Can I ask you a question?" Gu Meng Meng looked up blankly, "Oh." Chapter 396. Gu Meng Meng looked at Oriton like he was an idiot and said, "Because I already have a husband." Oriton said, "But, even an ordinary female has more than one partner, not to mention you are the messenger of the beast deity." Gu Meng Meng smiled helplessly and answered, "You also know that I am the messenger of the beast deity. I am different from other females, I only want one partner." Oriton remained silent for a moment and asked again, "Why him? Don't you feel afraid or disgusted?" Gu Meng Meng frowned and looked at Oriton, asking, "What do you mean?" Oriton looked at Elvis and then at Gu Meng Meng, saying, "His background, you don't know." Gu Meng Meng's expression was very bad and she said with obvious rejection, "I know, but what has my husband's background got to do with you? What right do you have to make irresponsible remarks in front of me?" Oriton was taken aback and revealed the first expression that Gu Meng Meng had seen. He only widened his eyes slightly, but it was enough to show his astonishment. "You know his background but you are still willing to accept him, not afraid of him and not despise him." Gu Mengmeng rolled up her sleeves and wanted to hit him, but looking at the pile of prey in front of him, Gu Mengmeng felt that she should be a gentleman and not hit him if she could reason with him. Thus, she placed her hands on her hips and raised her chin, saying, "Everyone can't choose their own background. Your mother didn't discuss this with you before giving birth to you, right? No matter how powerful your parents are, it's your parents who are capable and it has nothing to do with you. On the other hand, no matter how evil your parents are, it's your parents who are immoral. When they were dragged to be executed, they would not execute you for 5 minutes just because you are their son." Oratin stared unblinkingly at Gu Mingming's face, listening to her words filled with righteous indignation. Even though he was being scolded, his eyes gradually started to focus, gradually reflecting the petite but capable figure in his eyes. "If you have any right to criticize my husband, it should be under the premise that you have done something better than him, and not because your parents are more powerful than his parents, understand?" After Gu Mengmeng finished her long speech in one breath, she took 2 deep breaths and said, "Originally, you are a capable male and I sincerely wanted to invite you to join Saint Nazir and become a member of our tribe. But now..." Oratin raised his head, his eyes shining brightly as he said, "I am willing to join Saint Nazir without any additional conditions." Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. She blinked her eyes and asked, "Are you sure?" Oratin nodded and said, "Yes." Gu Mengmeng smiled awkwardly. She looked at Elvis and said, "Why don't we take 2 deep breaths and forget everything that happened just now?" Elvis rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head and said, "I'll listen to you." Gu Mengmeng smiled with her eyes curved, then extended her hand to Oratin. "Welcome to Saint Nazir." Oratin was taken aback. Then, he knelt down on one knee and placed his head under Gu Mingming's hand. He looked like, "God, please bless me." Gu Mengmeng was speechless. She exclaimed, "Why is the difference in culture as vast as the Milky Way? I just wanted to shake your hand to show my friendliness, big brother. Why are you kneeling at my feet with a righteous look on your face? How am I supposed to receive it?" Digression. Today's 9 chapters have already been updated, babies. A friendly reminder, it's almost the end of the month. Your tickets, if you don't pass them to me, will expire. Chapter 397. Elvis, on the other hand, was much calmer than Gu Mengmeng. He carried Gu Mengmeng and turned to leave without even turning back. "Gu Mengmeng, we have to choose 10 warriors today. We have only chosen 1, there are still 9 more." Elvis smiled. "Leah had already judged the rarity and quantity of the prey when you were flirting with Oratin. He has already chosen the other 9, you don't have to worry." Gu Mengmeng, I am the HR, you are overstepping your authority, you are interfering with the business of other departments, you are. Gu Mengmeng stopped and looked at Gu Mengmeng, asking, "Do you want to choose a warrior from the tribe or a male for yourself?" Gu Mengmeng said righteously, "Of course I want to choose a warrior from the tribe. Although I can take a look at some pretty men, it will not affect my professional judgment. Distinguishing between public and private interests is my basic principle, all right?" Elvis raised his eyebrows and repeated, "Look at some pretty men, huh?" Gu Mengmeng covered her mouth and accidentally said what was on her mind. Her big eyes darted around and she shook her head guiltily, wanting to take back what she said just now. Leah swung his large tail and reached out one hand to hook Gu Mingming's chin, while the other hand rested on Elvis's shoulder. He leaned forward in an ambiguous and seductive manner, his moist lips looked even more alluring under the moonlight. His long and narrow eyes were full of smiles, but there was a sense of danger in them. "How long has it been since you took a good look at me? Huh? Don't tell me, you are tired of my body and looks." Gu Mengmeng had goosebumps all over her body. She had a premonition that if Elvis was jealous, he would at most make her unable to get off the bed. But if Leah was jealous, the scene in her imagination was pitch black and she could not think of anything. But she just felt that it was so scary, I am just taking a look. Although I am a married woman, taking a look is still alright. Just taking a look, it should not be considered as indecent, right? Then the two of you would at least look at other beauties, beautiful females, right? Elvis, other than you, I don't look at any other females. Leah, I can't even be at ease staring at you, afraid that someone else will beat me to it and snatch away the little place I have left in your heart. It's fine if you don't sympathize with me, but you're accusing me first. Gu Meng Meng lowered her head and said, I was wrong, alright. I won't look at handsome men in the future, alright. Elvis looked at her aggrieved look and felt very complicated. He sighed and said, if you feel that I can't satisfy you and you need more males, why don't you consider Leah first? Gu Meng Meng wanted to cry but no tears came out. I really know my mistake. I will keep my private life and private life separate from now on. When I'm working, I will only work. When I'm looking at handsome men, I will only look at you, alright? Don't talk to me about mating again. I really don't have that thought. I just want to take a look. Elvis did not say anything more and just carried Gu Meng Meng towards the stone house. Leah wagged her tail and followed behind them. At a place where Gu Meng Meng and Elvis could not see, Lee's smile was mixed with a tinge of bitterness. If he could also hug Meng Meng like this and ask her if she had taken a fancy to another male. Was it because he couldn't satisfy her? How great would that be? Sighing, Leah reverted to his usual flirtatious self. He kept all his emotions and pretended that he was not sad. Aside from the topic, recommending her good friend Half Candy, who was currently PK, Battle of the Aces, God of War and Wild Wives, there is a mission that needs to be forged with blood and fire. It needs to be honed with life and death. This was a story about a mission and bloodshed. Mo Bing, the legend of the new military camp. It was rumored that she was arrogant and unruly, cold and heartless. She never cared about anyone. In reality, she disguised herself as a man and became the first female commander in history to command troops on the battlefield. Sniping, fighting, capturing, everything was easy for her. Deserts, jungles, highlands. She left her beautiful figure everywhere. Mo Bing's greatest joy in life was fighting the strong and flirting with the Prince Charming. Torturing the weak and fighting with the best. Ling Xiaoting, the legend of the military world. It was rumored that he was the king of hell of the military world. He was cold-faced and heartless and did not understand the meaning of human relationships. Chapter 398. Back at the stone house, Elvis placed Gu Meng Meng on the bed and stood beside Leah in front of Gu Meng Meng. He looked at Gu Meng Meng coldly and said, "All right, now that there's no one else around, you can talk about your swimsuit, Prince Charming." Gu Meng Meng felt that she had been living in an awkward atmosphere for the entire day and the cancer of awkwardness was about to break out. She smirked and said, "I haven't forgotten." Elvis nodded but did not reply. Leo leaned to the side and looked nonchalant. He fiddled with his fingers and said with some disappointment, "I still remember that you used to call me Beauty. This is the first time I've heard the term Prince Charming. It seems like he's much more beautiful than me, right?" Gu Meng Meng shook her head and said, No, the males in my world can never be compared to you. They're not even on the same level." Leo looked up and curled his lips seductively, saying, "But, you call him Prince Charming." Elvis's brows were tightly furrowed and he remained silent for a long time before saying, "The first time we met, you wore that weird outfit, was it to meet him?" How did you know?" Gu Meng Meng blurted out but immediately realized that she had said something wrong. She hurriedly covered her mouth but it was too late. Gu Meng Meng sighed and complained that her IQ was not online today. She looked up at Elvis and said pitifully, "Can I be lenient if I tell the truth?" Elvis remained silent and said, "You dressed like that, so it was to meet him." Gu Meng Meng felt like she was caught red-handed in bed. But who the hell ever heard of cheating before marriage? Elvis's eyes were filled with a strong sense of loss and sorrow. He just stared at Gu Meng Meng, his eyes like a black hole, wanting to suck Gu Meng Meng into it. At that time, you clearly said that you risked drowning for me, then, you even kissed me. But, so that was a lie. Gu Meng Meng shook her head. Elvis's gaze made her heart ache. She stood up from the bed and flew towards Elvis. The distance was a little far, and if Elvis did not step forward to catch her, she would definitely fall to the ground. But no matter how sad Elvis was, he could not bear to let her get hurt. So before Gu Meng Meng could tilt her body 30 degrees, Elvis had already hugged her firmly in his arms. Gu Meng Meng hugged Elvis's neck and whispered in his ear gently, "Hubby, don't let your imagination run wild. I'll tell you the truth, tell you everything, all right?" Elvis hesitated for a moment, but eventually nodded his head. Gu Meng Meng straightened her body and held Elvis's face. She looked into his eyes and said, "That day, I wore that bikini to meet that swimsuit Prince Charming. But I didn't even see him before I transmigrated here and met you. I do admire him, but he doesn't even know who I am. There's nothing between us, really. Don't be sad, okay?" Elvis's brows were tightly furrowed, an uneasy light flashing in his blue eyes. He asked, "What if you saw him that day? Would he not have come here? I almost couldn't meet you, didn't I?" Chapter 399. Gu Meng Meng snuggled in Elvis's arms and swung her little feet. She thought for a while and smiled. "Actually, I can't even remember what that Prince Charming Sr. looks like. I only remember that he was not willing to admit defeat and was so focused when he was trying his best to advance towards his goal. The confidence he exuded when he stood on the podium made me feel dizzy. Maybe I don't like him, I just don't want to be alone anymore, so I found someone to rely on." Elvis frowned and said, "Alone? Don't you have you see Jean by your side?" Gu Meng Meng burst out laughing. "Do you still think that you see Jean is real? That's just a story. I've explained it many times, there's no such person in real life." Elvis remained silent and did not reply. Leah, however, wagged his tail and said casually, "When you described him, from his eyes to his actions, it was too detailed. It's hard to believe if you said it was all fabricated." Gu Meng Meng had no choice but to explain what a television was. Then, Elvis asked, "You like television?" Gu Meng Meng nodded and said, "If there's no cell phone, television is the best entertainment. So I actually quite like it." Elvis nodded and asked again, "What does that machine look like? Where can I catch it?" Gu Meng Meng was taken aback for a moment, then she laughed out loud and said, "Hubby, that's a product from our world's civilization, it doesn't exist here." Elvis's expression was a little disappointed and he muttered, "Is it the magical weapon from the beast deity world?" Gu Meng Meng held back her laughter and nodded, saying, "You can say that, but that thing is harmful to the eyes, so it's good not having it." Elvis nodded and said, "So when you first came here, you couldn't see anything at night because of that machine, right?" Gu Meng Meng wanted to say that even without a cell phone and television, she couldn't see anything at night, but after thinking about it, she decided not to, so she nodded silently. Elvis hugged Gu Meng Meng in his arms and patted her back gently to comfort her. "When you were by the beast deity's side, you suffered. I'm sorry that I couldn't appear by your side to protect you at that time. That's why you suffered so much and even hurt your eye." Actually, Gu Meng Meng was thinking, in such a melancholic environment, if she said that she enjoyed watching television and playing with her phone, would it be too much of a wet blanket? Taking a deep breath, Gu Meng Meng hugged Elvis back and said, "It's not too late to meet him now. I'm willing to sacrifice my right to watch TV and play with my phone for the rest of my life in exchange for your company." Elvis fell into self-reproach for not participating in Gu Meng Meng's past, but Leah clearly understood something else. So, before coming here, you've always been alone. Aren't your father and mother accompanying you? Gu Mingming's smile froze. She pursed her lips and shook her head, saying, "My father abandoned my mother when I was very young and mated with another younger female. From then on, there was no news of him, as if he had disappeared from the world. My mother is currently mating with another male, and I, this burden, was finally abandoned after my mother and the new father gave birth to a younger brother." Out of topic. Chapter 400. Elvis and Leah were so shocked that they could not say a word. No matter if it was Gu Mingming's father abandoning his wife and daughter to marry someone else or her mother abandoning her after remarrying, it was all unheard of and unimaginable. Clenching his fists tightly, Elvis could only feel the suffocation in his chest. He gritted his teeth and said, "You are a precious female, how can you?" The word abandoning was too heavy. Elvis could not use this word on Gu Mengmeng no matter what. Gu Mengmeng smiled bitterly and said, "In our world, females are not as precious as here. On the contrary, in many backward places, they would even throw their newborn daughters into the rubbish bin or go to an illegal clinic to do a B-scan during pregnancy to induce labor after confirming the gender." Gu Mengmeng could feel Elvis's body trembling. It was an emotion that was struggling between anger and heartache. She knew that her man was grieving for her past. Raising her head and smiling, Gu Mengmeng said, "I am still considered good, at least my mother raised me until I was 14. I could earn some living expenses by performing in the small theater in the amusement park. During the winter and summer breaks, I would also work part-time at McDonald's to earn my tuition fees. After I was 18, life became better. When I was in university, I had a full scholarship and the accommodation and canteen in school were much cheaper than outside. So, the period in university was the most relaxing and satisfying period of my life. I originally wanted to learn how to fall in love or something in this most beautiful period of my life. Unfortunately, I did not even have the chance to confess before I transmigrated here." There were many words in Gu Mingming's words that Elvis and Leah could not understand. But they were very clear about one thing, that was, there was a deep sense of loneliness in Gu Mingming's eyes. This kind of loneliness was exactly what Elvis and Leah saw in each other's eyes when they first met. But at that time, besides loneliness, there was also hatred in their eyes. And in Gu Mingming's eyes, there was hope in that faint sense of loneliness. She gazed at Elvis with her clear eyes and smiled sweetly. "I'm still very lucky to be able to come here and meet you. You've given me an unprecedentedly comfortable life and spiritual comfort. You've made me believe that my life is starting to change for the better." Xiao Meng. Elvis did not know what to say to comfort Gu Mengmeng. After deliberating for a long time, he only said, "I love you." Gu Mengmeng replied with a smile, "I love you too." As for Leah, he finally understood why Gu Mengmeng refused to forgive and accept him at this moment. In her opinion, he had abandoned her, right? No matter how many reasons he had, his actions did indeed constitute abandonment, right? Leo lowered his head and pressed on his chest tightly. He gritted his teeth but could not see Gu Mingming's face. He used to have the right to protect her, to comfort her, and to care for her. But now, why should he feel heartache? Why should he regret it? What right did she have to say, "Please forgive me"? Gu Mengmeng took a deep breath and smiled. "All right, why did you make the atmosphere so depressing? If all the hardships I suffered in the first half of my life were to accumulate good luck in exchange for an opportunity to meet you, I think it's quite worth it." Out of topic. Tragic life is different. Everyone has their own difficult but clenched teeth to persist in the past. We do not have the right to refuse the suffering that God gives us, but we have the right to choose how to face it. Babies, remember. The harder it is, the more you must smile. Chapter 401. Although I have both parents, I still have 6 relatives to rely on. But now, I have you and our sons. I have a complete family. I will give you all the love that I had no place to store in the past, then accept your love with peace of mind. That will be very blissful. Gu Mengmeng hugged Elvis and smiled sweetly, so, don't worry that I will leave you. You and our sons are all that I have left. Where else can I go after leaving the both of you? Elvis frowned, but the corners of his lips were curled up. He could not tell what he was feeling. He felt heartache and lucky at the same time. He knew the feeling of having nothing but someone. He was in such a state himself. He was the leader of Saint Nazaire, but Saint Nazaire was not important to him. The only important thing was Gu Mengmeng. And coincidentally, he was fortunate enough to become the only pillar in Gu Mengmeng's heart. Her reliance made him feel very lucky and blissful. But the price of this luck was that she had to struggle for so many years in a place he could not see. Elvis hugged Gu Mengmeng tightly in his arms and kissed her hair, saying, "If there is a price to pay for meeting you, then it should have been borne by me. I was too useless, that's why you had to suffer so much." Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "Didn't you also drift around for so many years to meet me?" If the torture he had endured in the past was to meet her, the corners of Elvis's lips curled up slightly. Those bloody scenes, those cruelty, those tortures and those narrow escapes seemed to have quietly changed in his memories. It was not tragic, not pitiful and not tragic. Elvis rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head and said, "Thank you for beautifying my life." That night, Gu Mengmeng told Elvis many interesting things about her working days. She wanted Elvis to not think that her life was too tragic, but no matter how relaxed her tone was, Elvis's expression always became more and more solemn. After that, Gu Mengmeng fell asleep in Elvis's arms in a daze. In her half-awake state, she heard Elvis murmuring softly beside her ear, "You still haven't answered me, that swimsuit Prince Charming, who exactly is he?" Gu Mengmeng's heart thumped twice and she decided to immediately fall into a deep sleep. An ex-boyfriend appearing in front of her every day, a made-up Eugene appearing every now and then, if this swimsuit Prince Charming was added into the mix, life was really rich. The next morning, when Gu Mengmeng stretched herself and sat up, she felt that the atmosphere in the house was not quite right. Rubbing her eyes, she realized that Cole was actually standing in the house, wearing a strange outfit. It was made of animal skin, but the style looked like the attire worn by ancient priests. It was a cheap imitation. Elvis's face darkened as he stood in front of Cole, facing off against him. Cole was very similar to Leah in some aspects. He always had a humble but distant smile on his face. He just smiled at Elvis. Even though they did not speak, Gu Mengmeng felt as if she could see lightning flashing and thunder roaring between the two of them. Chapter 402. Gu Mengmeng ignored Leah. Every night, this fellow would crawl onto the bed like a Samoyed. She used all kinds of methods to reject and defend herself, but no matter what she did before she slept, this fellow would still be on her bed when she woke up. Getting used to it was a very scary thing. Because Gu Mengmeng would no longer be shocked by Lee's appearance on her bed. Directly ignoring this fellow, Gu Mengmeng jumped down from the bed and walked to Elvis's side. She looked at Cole and then at Elvis, asking softly, "Hubby, what's wrong?" "Great messenger, good morning." Cole bowed respectfully to Gu Mengmeng, then said, "Today is the beast deity sacrificial ceremony, to thank the beast deity for blessing the females to survive the harsh winter, and to pray for more cubs to be born this year. In the past years, it was always hosted by me, but since the great messenger has returned this year, you should naturally be the one hosting it. So, I am here to invite you over." The corners of Gu Mengmeng's mouth twitched, recalling how Leah stood on the wooden platform and danced the Great Spirit during her coming-of-age ceremony. She laughed awkwardly and said, "Then, I am not familiar with this business, since you are used to it, you should do it. Cole seemed to be a little surprised. Immediately kneeling down on one knee, he said sincerely, I dare not overstep my boundaries. Leah stood up from the bed, wagging his tail, and hung onto Elvis's shoulder like a boneless person, his large tail circling around Gu Mingming's waist. His voice was still lazy and slightly hoarse. He said, hosting the beast deity sacrificial ceremony is a symbol of status. Only the most authoritative person has the right to do so. Since you are here, it will definitely not be his turn. Meng Meng. As Leah said, he tightened his tail around Gu Mingming's waist and pulled her closer to him. His slender fingers hooked Gu Mingming's chin and his long and affectionate eyes shone with a gentle light. His dark red lips parted slightly and he said, I also want to see how you look like in the priest robe, you must be so beautiful. Gu Mingming's eyes were filled with tenderness. Gu Mengmeng rolled her eyes and slapped Li's hand away. She took a step back into Elvis's arms and said, but I don't know how to dance the great sorcerer. Cole took a step forward and took out a piece of beast skin. He handed it to Gu Mengmeng with both hands and said, this is another esoterica that Sauter worships. It is said to be related to the sacrifice ceremony. Please have a look, Lord Emissary. Gu Mengmeng was traumatized by the word esoteric. She thought to herself, could it be the hand-copied version of 300 poems of the Tang dynasty? But it was not a good idea for Cole to continue acting like this, so Gu Mengmeng took it over suspiciously. When she opened it to take a look, she almost choked on her own saliva. 2 lines of words were embroidered on the animal skin with some unknown thread, sacrificial dance, small apple, slowed down 16 times. The words recited by the priest were the lyrics of the English version of Little Apple. Gu Mengmeng suddenly laughed. She shook the piece of beast skin and turned to look at Cole, then at Leah. She thought to herself, did you know that the previous messenger of the beast deity whom you all respected as a god was actually a clown who knew how to dance in the square? How did this fellow manage to trick the entire world into becoming lame? It had been 1,000 years and they still couldn't find a bicycle. Lord Emissary, is there a problem? Cole felt that Gu Mingming's gaze was not right, so he asked. Chapter 403. Cole nodded and slowly closed his eyes. He opened his arms slightly to his sides and lifted his chin slightly, giving off a holy vibe, love plant awe. It's so perfect that it's like a father and a wife. Gu Mengmeng could not help but burst out laughing. Did I plan to find out about the fruit? Cole widened his eyes and looked at Gu Mengmeng in disbelief. His agitation was beyond words. He believed that Gu Mengmeng must have understood the contents of the sacrificial chant from the beast skin left behind by the previous messenger of the beast deity. He had once doubted that it was possible for such a small piece of beast skin to completely record the sacrificial chant with only such short symbols on it. But now he understood that the wisdom of the beast deity was limitless and it was not something he could guess. However, Cole would never know that the reason why Gu Mengmeng knew about such an unconventional English version of Little Apple was because on the first weekend of school, a few girls from her dormitory had gone to the KTV to sing and bond. At the start, all of them acted like virtuous ladies, but after 2 bottles of beer, all of them became more and more uncontrollable, acting all kinds of silly acts one after another. In the end, someone led them to sing the English version of Little Apple for the whole night at the KTV. Because of that, the few girls formed a firm revolutionary friendship. They even made a pact that whoever broke the dormitory rules would have to sing the English version of Little Apple 3 times in the field. Gu Mengmeng did not do her duty properly because she went to work, so she had to sing at least 1 round in the field every week. If not for the fact that Gu Mengmeng was very sure that her dormitory mates were attending classes properly before she disappeared, she would have suspected that the previous messenger of the beast deity was someone from her dormitory. Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, "All right, I got it. Isn't it just a sacrificial ceremony? I'll be there in a while, you can go back first, all right?" Cole looked at Elvis, who had been silent the whole time with a black face. He maintained his usual smile and nodded. Then, he looked at Gu Meng Meng and said, "Then, I will wait for the great messenger by the side of the deity altar." Gu Meng Meng waved her hands, indicating that she understood. After Cole left, Gu Meng Meng looked at Elvis and asked, "Hubby, why do you look so unhappy? Did something happen? Did Cole offend you?" Elvis hugged Gu Meng Meng in his arms and did not let go for a long time. After a while, he said with a deep voice, "If you like foxes, can't you accept Leah?" "Not Cole, not Cole." Gu Meng Meng was almost suffocating from Elvis's hug. She said with a dumbfounded expression, "I have nothing to do with Cole. You are always there whenever I see him. I am innocent." Elvis was still hugging Gu Meng Meng tightly. "You don't like him, right?" Gu Meng Meng nodded. "I definitely have no intention of liking Cole. Not at all." Elvis heaved a sigh of relief and said, "He came to challenge me just now." "Ha!" Gu Meng Meng looked at Elvis in shock. Seeing her shocked look, Elvis felt much more at ease. He heaved a sigh of relief and smiled. "He said he wants to become your beast pet and serve you together with Leah." Chapter 404. You said before that I am not allowed to duel with any males that are not acknowledged by you, so I rejected him. Elvis squinted his eyes and smiled. "Moreover, I feel that I can serve you well." Gu Meng Meng nodded her head vigorously and said, "Yes, yes, yes, I am already dying to have you. I definitely do not have any thoughts of letting a wolf into my house or having an affair." Elvis carried Gu Meng Meng horizontally and placed her back on the bed. He tidied her clothes and said, "If there comes a day when I can't satisfy you anymore, I don't have any opinion on how many partners you want to get or how many beast pets you want to get. But, it definitely cannot be Cole." Gu Meng Meng recalled Elvis's energetic and domineering attitude every time and shuddered all over. She shook her head and said, "That day will probably not come, don't worry blindly." Elvis seemed to have seen through Gu Meng Meng's thoughts and his lips curled upwards unknowingly. He nodded with pride and said, "Anyway, that Cole's intentions are not pure. You should stay away from him." Gu Meng Meng nodded. Gu Meng Meng said, "Why do you say that?" "Just because he wants to be my beast pet. Oratin even said he wants to be my guardian beast. Didn't you say that his intentions are not pure?" Elvis stopped what he was doing and looked at Gu Meng Meng with a serious and stern expression. He said, "Cole's level is higher than mine. He is at least at the peak of 4th level or is already a 5th level orc." Gu Meng Meng blinked her eyes and said, "Are you afraid that you can't beat him?" Elvis hesitated for a moment and nodded. He said, "To be able to break through the 3rd level boundary, it means that he has already made it before. But he said he wants to be your beast pet. This is very strange. I am worried that what if he was instigated by his female to harm you? I might not be able to beat him." Gu Meng Meng reflected for a while with a dazed expression before remembering the fixed pattern of mating to break through to the 3rd level. For people living in the modern world, it was really easy to forget that there was such a thing as leveling up. Gu Meng Meng asked timidly, "That, if it's 5th level, is it very powerful?" Elvis nodded and said, "5th level is already the highest level an orc can reach. In the entire beast world, there should not be more than 100 who can reach this level. Any higher and it would be the Beast King. In the entire beast world, there is only one snake beast of unknown origin that has reached this level. So, if Cole has ulterior motives, even if Leah and I work together, we might not be able to protect you from his sharp claws." Gu Meng Meng raised her eyebrows and said, "Cole is actually a demon king. Damn, we are going to fight the boss soon. I am not even prepared." Leah wagged his tail and said, "Don't worry, he won't dare to be rash." Gu Meng Meng turned around and asked Leah, "This half-deity, what do you mean by that?" Just by looking at her expression, Leah could tell that half-deity was definitely not a good word and was most likely mocking him. However, he did not mind and just flipped onto the bed. He knelt behind Gu Mengmeng and started combing her hair. As he deftly combed her hair with his fingers, he replied, "Didn't you see that Cole's eyes almost popped out when you recited that sacrificial chant just now?" Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, "He did look rather shocked, but it was not as exaggerated as you made it out to be." Chapter 405. Gu Mengmeng thought for a while. It seemed that Leah also rarely had any expressions, especially in front of outsiders. He would always fake a smile that looked refined and courteous, but in reality, he was very unapproachable. When he was with her, Leah would have more expressions, but it was also rare for him to show too much emotion. Most of them were low and subtle, the kind that would be overlooked if one did not pay attention. Regardless of whether he was sad or happy, he would always express it with a smile. Gu Mengmeng held her chin and looked at Leah, asking, "Does your family have a group rule like, must maintain a fake smile like a prince?" Leah shook his head, "No. At least my father did not teach me this rule." Gu Mengmeng asked, "Then why do you and Cole look like the wax figures in Madame Tussauds wax museum? Your expression is an unshakable fake smile." Leah remained silent for a moment, as if he was organizing his thoughts, before replying, "Maybe it's because he is too important to me, so I started to imitate him unconsciously." Gu Mengmeng thought for a while. Maybe the eldest brother was like a father, and a father's love was as heavy as a mountain. Lee's past was filled with too much sadness, and Gu Mengmeng did not want to rub salt on his wounds, so she did not continue asking, and just changed the topic back. Then maybe he was just shocked because he did not expect me to really know that sacrificial incantation. That doesn't mean anything. If someone could recite the Great Xinhua Dictionary in front of me, I would also be very shocked. Leah shook his head, giving a meaningful smile. You only saw shock on his face. Gu Mengmeng nodded, recalling carefully, she really only saw some shocked expressions. Leah hooked Gu Mengmeng's chin, then scrutinized every detail on her face like he was admiring a piece of art. He suddenly smiled and said, "It's no wonder, after all, not everyone understands him like I do." Leah used his fingertip to stroke Gu Mengmeng's little face, then said in a seductive tone, "Do you want to know why he challenged Elvis to become your beast pet when he clearly has his own female?" Gu Mengmeng nodded, indicating that she wanted to know. Lee's hand glided from Gu Mengmeng's shoulder to her arm, stopping at the outside of her upper arm to draw circles gently. "Do you want to know what he will do during the offering ceremony?" Gu Mengmeng thought for a while. Although she knew how to dance, Little Apple, and recite the English lyrics, she really could not predict what kind of tricks the previous clown would come up with. Since this sacrifice was held every year, Leah must know some details. It would be good to rehearse in advance to avoid embarrassing himself. So, Gu Mengmeng nodded again. Lee's hand continued to move downwards, brushing past her elbow and down her arm. He gently grabbed her wrist and continued to ask, "Cole has always been someone who will not give up until he reaches his goal. Elvis rejected his challenge, he will definitely have a backup plan. Do you want to know how he will deal with Elvis?" Gu Mengmeng did not even think before nodding her head heavily. Lee's hand continued to move downwards, finally intertwining with Gu Mengmeng's fingers, forming a tightly intertwined position. Leaning his upper body forward slightly, Lee's face stopped at the tip of Gu Mengmeng's nose. He said in an ambiguous tone, "Call me Daddy Leah and I will tell you. Aside from the topic, that, if I say I did not stutter on purpose, would anyone believe me? I swear to the heavens, I really did not do it on purpose." I guess, how many people would have shouted on behalf of Gu Mengmeng, "Daddy Leah." So, today's 9 o'clock has ended. Chapter 406. Gu Mengmeng's face fell. She rolled her eyes and said an affectionate "scram," before pulling back her hand and turning to leave. But Leah followed closely behind her, wagging his big tail and said, "You obviously want to know, why are you still so awkward? Just say it once, come on, whisper it softly, just for me to hear." Gu Mengmeng turned her head and said, "I don't want to know anymore." But Leah smiled and rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head, saying, "What an awkward yet cute little fellow. Hey, calling me daddy in front of Elvis, just thinking about it makes you feel like a little deer is running wild." Gu Mengmeng blushed and turned to look at this ex-boyfriend who wanted her to call him daddy in front of her hubby. She shouted in embarrassment, "Scram!" Leah shrugged his shoulders and said, "If you're really embarrassed, then let Elvis do it. If he does, I can barely accept it." Pfft. Gu Mengmeng choked on her saliva and started coughing violently. Her mind started to uncontrollably flash with some SM scenes. Leah smiled coldly and sickly, waving his little leather whip in a condescending manner, whipping Elvis who was wearing a bikini. Then Elvis whimpered and called out, "Daddy Leah eh." Goosebumps rose all over Gu Mingming's body and she felt uncomfortable all over. She even started to be unable to look Elvis and Leah in the eye. But Leah just had to walk to Elvis's side in a flirtatious manner. He placed an arm on Elvis's shoulder and used his fingers to play with Elvis's ears, blowing air into his ears, saying, "Meng Meng really wants to know, how is it, do you want to help her? Call me Daddy Leah and I will fulfill my little wish." Gu Mengmeng screamed in her heart, "No, no, hubby." Elvis's face was cold as he turned his head and said expressionlessly, "I have a better idea." Leah blinked his eyes and responded with a single syllable instinctively. Before his brain could react, his knees gave way and he was stunned by the powerful aura that Elvis suddenly exuded. The irresistible difference in level caused him to lose his balance. He fell down, and his whole body was in a rather sorry state. Elvis remained standing at the same spot and looked down at Leah from above. "Don't go against the orders of the head of the family and don't challenge the authority of the first partner. Otherwise, you'll be miserable and ugly." After Elvis finished speaking, he retracted his pressure. Then, he saw Leah pouncing into Gu Mingming's arms shamelessly, as if he had been wronged. He curled up beside Gu Mingming's legs in a kneeling position, burying his head into Gu Mingming's thighs. His large furry tail wrapped around half of his body and he said with a tearful look, "Meng Meng, Elvis is bullying me again, you have to protect me." Sobs, sobs, sobs. "I want a mate, I want to level up." Sobs, sobs, sobs. Gu Mengmeng looked at Leah in astonishment and only regained her senses after a long while. She asked softly, "Pardon me for asking, did you graduate from the Beast World Drama Queen Academy? The Oscars really owe you 10,086 Oscars." Elvis walked to Gu Mingming's side and carried her up. Then, he stepped on the base of Lee's tail with one foot and transformed his other hand into a wolf's claw. With a cold face, he said, "Answer Xiao Meng's question or I will shave off all the fur on your tail." Shave, all, off. Chapter 407. Leo looked up at Gu Mengmeng pitifully. With his tail being stepped on by Elvis, he decided not to get up anymore. He leaned over the side of the bed and strangely felt like a drunken concubine. "All right, you are the first partner." Leah stretched out his arm lazily, then supported his head with his hand and said slowly, "Guess, how many sons does my mother have?" Gu Mengmeng did not understand what Leah meant, but since Leah was the ninth highness, it would definitely not be less than 9. Gu Mengmeng vaguely remembered that foxes gave birth to an average of 7 to 10 cubs per litter, but only around 4 survived. Unless they had masochistic tendencies, they would not count their dead sons in the ranking, so, if Leah was the ninth highness, then he would have at least 2 to 3 litters, right? So, Gu Mengmeng guessed, 11 or 12. Leah shook his head and smiled slyly, saying, 9, I am the youngest. Gu Mengmeng smiled awkwardly, completely not understanding what was going on with Lee's smug expression. Was being the youngest in the family also a glorious thing? This only proved that you ran slower than the other brothers when you were a tadpole. Elvis saw that Leah started to answer Gu Mingming's doubts, so he released his leg. Lee's tail was freed and he swayed it lazily. He flipped over and sat up, looking at Elvis, saying, "Next time, if you want to threaten me, you have to come up with a more reliable reason, or else I will not cooperate with you." Elvis raised his eyebrows, saying, "You don't believe that I will shave all your fur?" Leah shook his head, with a "you are an idiot" expression, saying, "Meng Meng likes my tail so much, if you really shave it. I don't mind, at most I will temporarily maintain my human form and not show my tail. But the one who will be disappointed will definitely be Meng Meng. Will you do anything that will make her sad?" Elvis clenched his teeth and said coldly, "I can try once occasionally." "TSK, you really know how to brag," Leah said with a face full of disdain. Gu Mengmeng face-bombed. Sometimes she really wondered how this pair of enemies could live together peacefully in the past. With Lee's cheap mouth, how did Elvis resist from strangling him to death in the past? Stretching out her hand, Gu Mengmeng gestured for him to stop. "Can you answer my question first? I'm going to perform a recital at the sacrificial ceremony later. I'm in a hurry." Leah smacked his lips and resumed the rhythm. "Then do you know what Cole's ranking in the family is?" Gu Mengmeng had an inaccurate concept of the beast world. Many of the systems here resembled the feudal society in ancient China. Thus, almost without thinking, he blurted out, "Boss." Leo was still smiling and his expression did not change, but Gu Mengmeng could see a tinge of sadness in his smile. Frowning, she asked, "Why? Isn't he the boss?" Leah shook his head. "He's the second oldest." Gu Mengmeng did not understand where the sadness on Lee's face came from, but her instincts told her that Leah would not ask some irrelevant questions. He couldn't help but think of the inheritance system that existed in ancient times, passing it on to the eldest son. If Cole was the second oldest, then shouldn't he inherit the position of Sauter's leader? Gu Mengmeng felt a chill in her heart. She asked carefully, "Then, what about your eldest brother?" Leah nodded, as though he was praising Gu Mengmeng's sharp senses. But that forced smile was so pale and heart-wrenching. "Aside from the topic, when I have the money to buy a house, I must choose a place that is the furthest from the square. Sob sob sob, there are activities downstairs every day. Singing White Hair Girl 8 times a day. I don't want to live anymore." Chapter 408. He died from the backlash of the mating contract. Leah said calmly, but Gu Mengmeng could see the raging waves in his long and narrow eyes. "Did you have a good relationship with your big brother?" Gu Mengmeng asked. Leah thought for a moment, then shook his head and said, "I don't think we had a good relationship, but we were taught since young to be a pair of brothers who could complement each other, so we spent more time together." Gu Mengmeng did not understand. There were a total of 9 brothers. Why did the eldest and youngest have to be good brothers? Leah continued, "The eldest inherited the position of the leader, while the youngest inherited the position of the witch doctor. The arrival of the messenger of the beast deity was the right time, and being born in Sauter was the right place. As long as my big brother and I work well together to form the word, human harmony, Sauter should be able to climb to the peak again, and regain its former glory." Gu Mengmeng frowned. This ideal situation might be in line with everyone's interests, but it would definitely hurt the darkness in some people's hearts. As for who that person was, the answer was almost obvious. "So, Cole killed your big brother's partner?" Gu Mengmeng asked. Leah shook his head and said, "On the day my big brother died, his partner disappeared from this world. No one knew how she disappeared, and no one knew where she went after that. So, there is no evidence pointing to Cole as the culprit, but—" Leah did not continue, and Gu Mengmeng also remained silent for a moment, before continuing Lee's words, "But, because Cole is the one who has the biggest vested interest in this matter, so you suspect that he planned it?" Leah hesitated for a moment, but finally nodded his head and said, "You said before, being too perfect in itself, is a loophole." Gu Mengmeng vaguely remembered that she had said this before, but she had already forgotten why she said it. Just looking at Leah, Gu Mengmeng did not know what to do. To be honest, Cole did give off a feeling of alienation, but to say that he was so evil as to make use of his sister-in-law to kill his own brother, Gu Mengmeng felt that he was not that kind of person. Usually, one's face reflects one's heart, and those with evil intentions would always have some charm hanging on their faces. But Cole did not feel the slightest bit uncomfortable. Gu Mengmeng only knew bits and pieces of Lee's past, so she could not judge how much of Lee's memories were distorted due to hatred. She also did not want to make Leah sad by doubting him because of Cole. After deliberating for a long time, Gu Mengmeng sighed and said, "Maybe it's a misunderstanding." Leah was not angry, but just smiled faintly and said, "Yeah, maybe it's a misunderstanding." Gu Mengmeng could clearly feel Lee's sensitivity. His words, which seemed like he was agreeing with her, contained too much disappointment and indescribable sadness. "It's not that I don't believe you," Gu Mengmeng explained. "It's me, and said, Gu, King, Gu said, Mengmeng, I said, me, Gu Mengmeng, I said. It was, I say, I. Chapter 409. I'm sorry. Gu Mengmeng apologized. Leah realized that his emotions had put Gu Mengmeng in a difficult position, so he purposely exaggerated his disappointment and sadness. He hooked Gu Mengmeng's chin seductively and said, "You clearly know that compared to an apology, I want to hear your confession more. Why don't you call me Daddy Leah?" Sometimes, Gu Mengmeng really could not tell which words Leah said were real and which were fake. Seeing that he was fooling around again, she pushed his hand away and said, "It's useless if you don't talk nonsense. Didn't you say you will tell me what Cole will do next?" Rambling on and on, why are you not focusing on the main point? Leah twitched his lips and said, "You are quite interested in Cole, why? Do you really want him to be your beast pet and to serve you together with me?" Gu Mengmeng's beautiful eyes widened and she said, "Swallow the word serve. If I hear it again, I will fall out with you." Leah nodded and said obediently, "All right, how about changing it to serve?" "How about serve?" Gu Mengmeng clenched her teeth and screamed in her heart, "Heavens, there is a fox spirit here. I wonder if he has passed the tribulation. Do you want to consider sending a bolt of lightning to strike him?" Leah cleared his throat and stopped joking before continuing, "The snow foxes are the followers of the messenger of the beast deity. In this tribe, serving the messenger of the beast deity is the most important duty. In these 1,000 years, there are many snow foxes who have made it in order to break through the third-level boundary. My father is one, my elder brother is another, Cole is also one. Moreover, Cole is the one who has done this the most out of all the people I know." Gu Mengmeng tilted her head and asked, "What do you mean?" Leah said, "Be it my father, my elder brother or the snow foxes who have made it in order to break through the third-level boundary, even if they don't like their own females that much, they would still protect and take care of them. As for Cole, no one in the tribe knows who his female is and no one has ever seen him care for any female." "Oh, you are an exception." Gu Mengmeng rubbed her temples helplessly. "So you suspect that I am Cole's female?" Leah shook his head and said, "If he was your male, he wouldn't need to challenge Elvis to snatch my beast pet position." Gu Mengmeng. I was speechless. Leah said, "What I want to say is, why would a male who doesn't even care about the female he has mated with suddenly come to woo you? I want to be your beast pet." Gu Mengmeng said, "Shouldn't you be answering my question?" Leah had a "Is that so?" When Gu Mengmeng waved her fist, he smiled evilly and continued, "When I was banished from Sauter, Cole had just mated and had yet to break through the third level. After not seeing her for so many years, her strength should have increased a lot, so he was not worried about the backlash of the mating contract, so he did not care about the female at all. And you? I'm afraid that in his eyes, you're not just a female, but a supreme authority. Gu Mengmeng said, so, you think that Cole wanted to get the blessing of the messenger of the beast deity, so he wanted to seduce me? Leah nodded and said, something like that. Chapter 4:10. Leah smiled and waved his tail. He leaned back and placed his elbows on the side of the bed. Don't forget the fox seductive fragrance of the snow fox tribe. Gu Mingming's face froze. Damn it, she was hit by Lee's fox seductive fragrance during the battle with Elvis in the wild. Her back was sore for a few days and it felt like she was hit by a train. Elvis frowned and continued Lee's sentence. Isn't the fox seductive fragrance supposed to increase the pleasure of mating? Could it control a person's mind? Leah covered his lips and smiled. He looked at Elvis with a "oh my God, you are so innocent and naive" expression. Elvis's face darkened and he reached out his claws to shave Lee's tail. But Leah waved his tail and darted into Gu Mingming's arms. He forcefully stuffed his furry large tail into Gu Mingming's hands. Gu Mengmeng instinctively stroked it twice before realizing that Elvis's face had darkened. He stood silently opposite her without saying a word. Gu Mengmeng threw away Lee's tail as if she was electrocuted. She grinned and moved closer to Elvis. Furry fetish is an illness. Moreover, I am the kind of patient who is beyond cure. I can't control my claws. Gu Mengmeng stretched out her two little hands and clenched them into fists. She looked like a cat's paw. Why don't you chop off my hands? Sobs, sobs, sobs. Elvis looked at Gu Mengmeng, feeling annoyed and amused at the same time. The jealousy he felt when he saw her touching Lee's tail in satisfaction had long been dispelled by her soft and gentle words. A sweet feeling spread in his heart like honey. He reached out to hold Gu Mingming's little hand and brought her into his arms. Then, he placed his tail into her hands. He whispered into her ear, when your illness acts up, think of me first, all right? Yeah. Gu Mengmeng hugged Elvis's large tail and nodded her head sweetly. She was also extremely satisfied. Leo looked at Elvis resentfully. Where is your dignity as a wolf? How can you sell your body like others? Elvis raised his brows. Talking about dignity with my own female. Are you crazy or am I crazy? Leah grumbled helplessly, even you have learned to fight for favor with me. Elvis ignored his little emotions and said, you haven't answered my question. Will the fox seductive fragrance disturb a person's mind? Leah shook his head and said, the fox seductive fragrance itself can only increase the sensation during mating. But as long as it's used well, the female will have the illusion that she's deeply in love with the male and will listen to everything he says. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. She looked up at Leah with a complicated gaze. Leah returned Gu Mingming's gaze and the curve of his faint smile revealed his gentle and serious curves. His long and narrow eyes were filled with deep affection and longing. I won't use the fox seductive fragrance on you. I also want to wait until the day you personally say yes. Gu Mengmeng blushed and lowered her head to avoid Lee's gaze. Because she was unable to bear his deep feelings, and also because, damn it, on the day she mated with Elvis, this fellow was indeed eavesdropping at the entrance of the cave. Leah did not like Gu Mingming's conflicted and troubled look. So, he quickly brought the topic back to Cole. But Cole is different. In order to obtain power, I'm afraid he will use the fox seductive fragrance on you at all costs. Chapter 4:11. Then what should I do? Gu Mengmeng was a little afraid. She was someone who had experienced the fox seductive fragrance before. Unknowingly, she would fall into that enchanting state and there was no way to resist it. Leo looked up at Gu Mengmeng with a serious and cautious expression. He did not smile, but it made one feel more at ease. Don't leave my side. No matter when, no matter where, no matter what you want to do, you must bring me along. Gu Mengmeng looked at Leah in a daze. She hesitated for a moment before asking, "Can I bring Elvis along?" Leah shook his head. Only the snow fox tribe is most sensitive to the fox seductive fragrance. Apart from me, the entire snow fox tribe can't wait for you to stay in Solder. So even if someone finds out that Cole is using the fox seductive fragrance on you, no one will warn you. Although Elvis is more familiar with the fox seductive fragrance, he needs to use a large amount of it, and it has already taken effect. Only then would he be able to detect it faster than normal orcs. But with Cole's cautiousness, do you think he will use a large amount on you so openly that you will not be able to control yourself and pounce on his fox seductive fragrance in public? Gu Mengmeng thought about it seriously before shaking her head. She agreed with Lee's words. Gu Mengmeng hugged Elvis's tail. Her little face looked even more crystal clear under the contrast of Elvis's punk-style tail. Her doe-like innocent eyes carried a tinge of grievance and helplessness. "Hubby," Elvis rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head. "Don't be afraid. I will protect you with Leah. This situation, we have long expected it." Gu Mengmeng then recalled that when Leah and Elvis established Saint Nazir, they were preparing to welcome the messenger of the beast deity and replace Solder. She nodded and felt much more at ease. Leah continued. "There will definitely be some accidents during the sacrificial ceremony later." Gu Mengmeng turned her head. "Why? Does Cole want me to die on stage in public?" Leah shook his head. "No, he probably wants to be a hero and save the damsel in distress. I heard that all females fall for this." Gu Mengmeng's lips twitched. "Acting is Qiangyao." Leah smiled but did not reply. He just looked at Gu Mengmeng and instructed, "Later on, no matter what, you must not be more than 3 steps away from Elvis and I. No matter what method Cole uses to separate us, you must try your best to reject him. If you really can't reject, you can throw a tantrum. This is the exclusive right of females. Even if you are not the messenger of the beast deity, you can still use it." Gu Mengmeng raised her head and said, "I'm gentle, and well-mannered. I'm not capable of throwing a tantrum." Leah said, "Just bring out the imposing manner you had when you used the potato to smash Elvis." "No, as long as I bring out half of my aura, it should be enough to intimidate everyone." Gu Mengmeng face-bombed. Dark history. This was definitely a dark history. Taking a deep breath, Gu Mengmeng asked, "Anything else?" Leah suddenly smiled and exchanged a look with Elvis. "Leave the rest to us." Elvis nodded. "Don't worry." Gu Mengmeng nodded and did not say another word. Meanwhile, Elvis tidied up Gu Mengmeng's clothes for the last time. Then, he carried her out of the little stone house. Leah followed behind Elvis. One was black and one was white, just like day and night. Meanwhile, Gu Mengmeng was the sun that shone brightly during the day and warmed the dark night. Chapter 412. Gu Mengmeng came down from Elvis's arms, but did not leave his and Lee's side. She was escorted up the altar by Elvis and Leah, and did not stop when she passed by Cole. At the end of the day, she trusted Leah more than Cole. Standing on the altar, Elvis and Leah took a step back and maintained an arm's-length distance from Gu Mengmeng. No matter what happened, the two of them had absolute confidence that they could protect Gu Mengmeng before she got hurt. Gu Mengmeng swept her gaze below the altar and unexpectedly discovered an interesting situation. Everyone revealed their tails and ears, making it seem as if they were all half-orcs. Gu Mengmeng tilted her head to look at Leah, questioning him with her eyes. Leah, on the other hand, glanced at Cole below the stage. Gu Mengmeng followed Li's gaze and indeed saw Cole swinging his fluffy and white big tail, with a pair of furry fox ears on top of his head. That appearance looked a little like Ba Wei. Although she did not know what exactly was going on, Gu Mengmeng did not dare to simply ask. After all, the males in the beast world had shockingly good hearing. No matter how softly she spoke, it would not escape their ears. Suppressing her curiosity, Gu Mengmeng took a deep breath. Then, following the amusing beast skin esoterica left behind by the previous messenger of the beast deity, she slowed down her speed by 16 times as she danced in the square, chanting as if she was reading the Bible, "I planted, I'll have to eat the fruit, bear with it." She could not laugh. Today is a good day. She felt like an idiot. Pluckthusters give you down hamun for you. Damn it. She could not hold it in anymore. Gu Mingming's face turned red. The more she tried to hold back her laughter, the more she wanted to laugh. In the end, she could not hold it in any longer and laughed until she bent over on the stage, hammering the ground. The people below the stage were dumbfounded. Elvis and Leah on the stage were also at a loss. Elvis asked Leah with his eyes, "Did Cole use the fox seductive fragrance on her?" Leah shook his head and replied with his eyes, "The fox seductive fragrance does not have this type of effect." Cole was even more puzzled. He felt that the holy light had shone on his head just now. Why did Gu Mengmeng suddenly laugh like that? Gu Mingming's smile seemed to have silenced the entire world. By the time Gu Mengmeng was done laughing and came back to her senses, one could imagine how awkward the atmosphere was. It was like the national table tennis team participating in the Olympic Games. When you stood on the champion's podium to receive the award, the person giving the award had just hung the gold medal around your neck, and then you suddenly danced to 18 touches. It was being broadcasted live on TV all over the world. That was King embarrassing. Background music, the most frightening thing, is the sudden silence in the air. Gu Mengmeng cleared her throat and stood up. Pretending to be calm, she said, "Then, my dad is the beast deity, you all know that, huh?" Boom, there was an uproar below the stage. Even Cole was shocked speechless. Chapter 413. Miscalculation, such a miscalculation. Damn it, now it was back to normal. Gu Mengmeng glanced around at the sea of people with flags waving in the wind and the joyous scene. She laughed awkwardly and thought to herself, how could it be back? Clenching her teeth, Gu Mengmeng decided to treat this sacrificial ceremony as a surprise version of a mini theater in an amusement park. There was one time when the main character was heartbroken and spouted nonsense on stage, changing his lines randomly. Then, the supporting actors had to act according to his words on the spot, and surprisingly, that scene received unanimous praise from the audience, saying that it was rich in emotions, exquisite and full of emotions. Taking a deep breath, Gu Mengmeng gestured for everyone to quieten down and said, "Let me formally introduce myself to everyone. I am the eldest daughter of the beast deity, Gu Mengmeng. I am here on the orders of the beast deity to bring you light and hope, food and knowledge." Beast deity, beast deity, beast deity. The audience cheered and Gu Mengmeng unintentionally pushed the beast deity's majestic image to a new level. After all, in the beast world, being by the beast deity's side was bliss and safety. But the beast deity sent his own daughter here, just to let them live a better life. So touched. The beast deity was indeed a majestic, sacred and inviolable existence. Gu Mengmeng suddenly understood a little. No wonder the previous messenger of the beast deity could fool everyone with a little apple and 300 poems of the Tang dynasty. It was not that the previous messenger of the beast deity was too smart, but the people in the beast world were generally pure and kind, as if they had never been fooled before. Glancing at Cole, she realized that he was also looking at her with a face full of admiration and devotion. Gu Mengmeng thought to herself, did Leah overestimate Cole? How could he believe such nonsense? Gu Mengmeng straightened her back and continued, I laughed just now because my beast father, the beast deity, responded to my prayers. He said. Gu Mengmeng purposely dragged out her words until everyone's eyes were fixed on her, holding their breaths and waiting for her next words. Gu Mengmeng then slowly said, "He will bless the beast world and protect the devout believers from misfortune." It was actually very immoral for Gu Mengmeng to fool people like this, because even the content she used to fool them was not original. Yes, she copied the Yellow Turban Army's idea. If you turn misfortune into fortune, it means that the beast deity has blessed you. But if you die, it only proves that you are not pious enough. However, such a verbal trap caused the audience to cheer and jump with joy. The scene was even more exaggerated than when the female soldiers were unable to control their emotions and burst into tears when Fat Tai was inspecting the military camp. Gu Mengmeng maintained the smile of the Statue of Liberty and waved her hands. Since the beast deity has already agreed to our request, then this sacrificial ceremony can end now. Let's all go and do what we need to do. Don't gather here. After all, the police will check your ID card for illegal gathering. The audience was stunned. They had probably never experienced such an efficient sacrificial ceremony before and couldn't get used to it for a while. It was just like the teacher who would say, "Come on, students, we'll be done with this question." One day, before the bell rang, the teacher had already picked up his books and walked out of the classroom. Happiness comes too suddenly. It's also very troublesome. Gu Mengmeng felt a little helpless as she looked at everyone staring at her in a daze. Chapter 4:14. Actually, the orcs did not know how to count, but at least they knew that the quota was getting lesser and lesser. Moreover, 6 single males had become partners in just a few days, and they were all the top beauties in their respective tribes. This was indeed the beast deity's blessing. Because of this, the males became even more enthusiastic, shouting for Gu Mengmeng to announce the selection rules for this round. Gu Mengmeng gestured a "please be quiet" gesture, then put on the professional smile of a female executive, saying, "Considering the families of the warriors, the number of applicants this time is set at 5. The topic of recruitment is this." Gu Mengmeng took out 2 chilies, one red and one green, from her pocket. Only Elvis and Leah knew about this method of making pockets on beast skin, so when Gu Mengmeng conjured 2 strange fruits out of thin air, the crowd below the stage was shocked once again. Gu Mengmeng completely did not know that her unconscious action was as shocking as swallowing the Leaning Tower of Pisa in front of everyone. She just minded her own business and said, "Everyone look closely at this fruit. This is the beast deity's blessing. It is also limited to sunset. The top 5 who bring back the most will obtain the quota to join Saint Nazir." After Gu Mengmeng finished speaking, she threw the 2 chilies into the crowd, saying, "This is for you to use as a sample." Gu Mengmeng regretted after throwing it. It was like throwing a piece of meat bone into a wolf's den. Would there be a stampede? Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng and said, "Since we are done, let's go back to the stone house first." Gu Mengmeng nodded, looking back at the crowd worriedly. Where are they? Finished fighting. So efficient, passing by Cole. Cole did not stop Gu Mengmeng from leaving, but instead followed behind Elvis, walking shoulder to shoulder with Leah. Leader Cole, why are you following us? Your place is in the opposite direction. Gu Mengmeng said. Cole was still smiling, asking, "Mighty messenger, if I find the most beast deity's blessings, can I also join Saint Nazir?" Gu Mengmeng's lips twitched, saying, "Didn't I say it previously? Your Sauter is the tribe of the previous messenger of the beast deity. It is against the rules for me to snatch their territory the moment I arrive. You better guard Sauter well." Cole seemed a little down as he asked, "Could it be that Sauter has already been abandoned by the beast deity, so it can't receive the messenger's favor?" Gu Mengmeng laughed awkwardly and said, "A new ruler brings his own courtiers. This has been the case since ancient times. Everyone feels more at ease with their own people." I hope you understand. Cole's eyes were somewhat similar to Lee's, but they were not Lee's classical phoenix eyes. Instead, they were slightly bigger and shorter, looking less amorous and more radiant. And at that moment, those radiant eyes were like transparent glass refracting the sunlight, shining directly on Gu Mingming's face. He asked, "Can't I also become one of the great messenger's people?" Gu Mengmeng laughed dryly and said, "Of course not, I'm not interested in other people's husbands. It's immoral to destroy other people's families, I won't do such a thing." "The great messenger knows that I have mated?" Cole asked. Gu Mengmeng said, "My hubby is a 4th level orc. You were completely fine the last time he released his pressure. This proves that you've broken through the boundary of level 3, right? Aside from the topic, it's time to say our goodbyes once a day again. Today's 9 o'clock has ended, baby. See you tomorrow." Chapter 4:15. Cole lowered his head and rubbed his chin. "Ah, so it was a mistake here. If I had known earlier, I would have pretended to faint." Gu Mengmeng smiled awkwardly. "This is not the main point, right?" Cole looked up. "Then what is the main point?" Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. She suddenly could not remember what the main point was. "The main point is that you are already a mated male. Why don't you go home and play with your own female? Why do you keep following my Gu Mengmeng?" Leah purposely stood in between Cole and Elvis. "I heard that the great messenger likes your tail the most." Cole smiled at Leah. "I heard that the great messenger likes your tail the most." Leah paused and asked, "What is it?" Cole asked. "Then do you still want your tail?" Leah sneered. "This time, you want to snatch my tail." Cole swayed his fluffy tail. "You don't have to snatch it. I have it." Leah said in a tone of sudden realization, "Aw, I forgot. You just like to see others in pain." Cole's gaze sharpened as he stared coldly at Leah. The smile on his face was still maintained, not even the slightest change in its arc. He said, "When the day comes where you no longer need to rely on the great messenger's protection to return to Sauter, come and say this to me again. The current you still doesn't have that right." Gu Mengmeng patted Elvis's shoulder. She gestured for him to put her down. Elvis hesitated for a moment. Then, he did as he was told. Gu Mengmeng walked to Leah. She opened her arms and gestured for a hug. Leah was stunned for a moment. He smiled gently and carried Gu Mengmeng. He buried his nose in her neck and enjoyed her hug. As for Cole, he was no longer important. Gu Mengmeng hugged Lee's neck back. She looked at Cole. "The current Leah is no longer the 9th highness you can chase away. He is my family now. Please be more respectful when you speak. Or else, I don't mind abusing my authority as the messenger of the beast deity to destroy your Sauter." Cole did not expect Gu Mengmeng to stand up for Leah. He was slightly surprised. But his expression did not change. Placing his right hand on his left chest, Leah said respectfully and sincerely, "Yes, I will follow the great messenger's orders." Gu Mengmeng patted Lee's back lightly, then said to Cole, "If there's nothing else, Leader Cole, please return. Our family is going back to eat. We didn't prepare any food for you." Cole tilted his head and smiled. "It's all right, great messenger. I just need to watch you eat." Gu Mengmeng shook her head and returned a polite smile. "Didn't your mother tell you that it's rude to stare at others eating?" Cole shook his head honestly. Gu Mengmeng laughed coldly and said, "Then let me tell you now, it's very rude to stare at others while they are eating. You will be despised." Cole nodded his head in confusion. "Then I'll turn around when you're eating. I won't look." Gu Mengmeng twitched her lips. "But our family didn't prepare any air to serve you." Unless you start to stop breathing when you enter my house, it might not be convenient for our family to serve you. Leah tilted his head and leaned against Gu Mingming's neck. He looked at Cole through Gu Mingming's chin. He said coquettishly, Ming, I don't like foxes other than me in our family. Aside from the topic, yesterday, I saw a reader's little darling asking about Cole. I was very touched, little darling who likes to read the text seriously. Chapter 4:16. Gu Mengmeng looked at Cole apologetically and said, You heard it, Leah has always been this awkward and can't tolerate a second vixen at home. So I'm sorry, don't go to my little stone house if there's nothing important in the future. Cole tilted his head and asked in confusion, Is the great messenger siding with Leah? Gu Mengmeng nodded and admitted openly, Yes, can't you tell? Cole nodded and said, I can tell, but I'm not sure, so I'm just asking. Cole remained silent for 2 seconds before continuing to ask, Since the great messenger likes Leah so much, why don't you mate with him and instead let him stay in the position of a beast pet? This was Gu Mingming's weakness. Although her breakup with Leah was planned by Leah, she couldn't explain why, but she felt a sense of guilt. It was as if she was the one who betrayed them. Maybe it was because after the breakup, she had Elvis and was living a blissful life. But Leah had always been single for no reason, staying by her side as a beast pet to protect her. But now, what else could she give him in return? Relationships were the most vulnerable things in this world. Elvis took a step forward and blocked Cole's gaze, saying, Who do you think you are? Why do we need to answer to you about our family's matters? Cole suddenly laughed. From his point of view, although there were only 3 people in Gu Mingming's family, but this family relationship was so messy and hard to understand. Beast pets were just playthings for females when they were excited. Females would not take it to heart even if they were ridiculed by others. But Gu Mengmeng was standing up for Leah. Although the first partner would not stop females from mating with other males, he would usually create obstacles in the dark and not let other males get close to his own female easily. This was especially true for males who were handsome and liked by females. They were even more guarded against them. For someone like Leah, he should be guarded to the death before mating. Someone had ridiculed his status as a beast pet. Shouldn't the first partner stand by and watch coldly? It would be best if Gu Mengmeng would say something to provoke Leah and make him leave disheartened. But this stupid wolf from Gu Mingming's family actually jumped out to help Leah. Elvis snorted coldly and ignored Cole's blank look. Just as he was about to turn around, Cole suddenly opened his mouth and said, I can be considered as that fox's second brother. With such an identity, can I ask about it? With a cold expression, Leah carried Gu Mengmeng and stood beside Elvis. He stood shoulder to shoulder with Gu Mengmeng, standing on either side of her. His long and narrow eyes were filled with coldness and composure. His voice was calm, without any anger or growl, just like a bowl of still water, without any ripples. He said, I remember that day when Sauter banished me, Leader Cole said it himself. From now on, Sauter will no longer have a 9th highness and you will no longer have a brother like me. What? Now that he saw Meng Meng treating me well, he wanted to come back and claim kinship. I'm sorry, in my family, there are only Meng Meng and Elvis, there's no so-called second brother. After Leah finished speaking, he turned around and left with Elvis without turning back to look at Cole. Gu Mengmeng could feel Lee's body trembling. Chapter 4:17. Was he always like this? Pretending to be nonchalant and able to face everything with a smile, but in actual fact, Sauter was still a scar on his heart, right? How could it not hurt? I'm sorry. Gu Mengmeng leaned on Lee's shoulder and wrapped her arms around his neck, whispering, let's settle the recruitment as soon as possible, then return to Saint Nazaire. In the future, the beauty pageant will be held in Saint Nazaire instead, and we will never come to solder again, all right? Li's body stiffened, and he raised his head with difficulty, caressing the back of Gu Mingming's head. His voice was like flowing water, with a tinge of pain, as he said, being able to make you feel heartache for me once, the past is already worth it. Don't worry, I'm fine. I'm no longer the Ninth Highness that could be manipulated by others, now. I also have something that I want to protect with my life. Gu Mengmeng did not say anything. She remembered Elvis saying that in the past few years, Leah only had destruction in his eyes. Everything he did was to destroy solder. But now, he said that everything he did was to protect something with his life. Her heart shrank violently. Could she say that she did not understand? Did she not understand what he wanted to protect? Gu Mingming's hand subconsciously tightened, and she bit her lower lip, using an almost inaudible voice to say, I'm sorry. Li's smile was so bitter, but he could not bear to put Gu Mengmeng in a difficult position. Hence, he took a deep breath and forced his smile to look bright and affectionate. He said in an extremely ambiguous tone, you know, compared to an apology, I prefer to hear a confession. If you really love me, why don't you call me Daddy Leah? Gu Mengmeng did not say anything, just quietly hugging Leah, snuggling in his arms along the way, quietly, not struggling or making a noise. Leah knew that Gu Mengmeng was comforting him. He also knew that once they returned to that stone house, Gu Mengmeng would return to Elvis's arms, and would not let him hug her like this again. His footsteps slowed down unknowingly. He hoped that there was no end to this road. But in the end, they still returned to that small stone house. There were two people standing outside the house. Gu Mengmeng was taken aback for a moment, recalling that one of them was the first partner of that half-beast snake, Ellie. What was his name again? Gu Mengmeng had forgotten. Waving her hands, Gu Mengmeng smiled and said, Hi, official Su Xian. How come you have time to come here today? Don't you need to serve your Bai Suzhen? Ellie's first partner pointed at his own nose and said, Lord Su Xian. Gu Mengmeng nodded sincerely and said, Yeah, let me tell you, there are 3 people I admire the most in my life. Dong Yong dared to sleep with immortals, Ning Kaichen dared to sleep with ghosts, and Su Xian dared to sleep with snakes. I really didn't expect that I would actually meet a living one. TSK, TSK, TSK. This is definitely something that I'll see in my lifetime. Leah knew that Gu Mingming's nonsense was a signal, indicating that he should let go. Placing Gu Mengmeng on the ground, Li's gaze was filled with unconcealable gentleness. He watched as the last strand of her hair slipped away from his fingertips, as her joyful back view leaped up and walked to Darch, patting his shoulder and smiling in a rather wretched manner. Leah could not help but smile too. Even though his arms were empty, Leah already felt very satisfied looking at her like this. Chapter 4:18. Although Darch did not understand what Gu Mengmeng was talking about, but the messenger of the beast deity's words would never be wrong. So Darch bowed and said, Thank you, great messenger, for bestowing me with a name. From today onwards, I will be called official Su Xian. Pfft, ha ha ha. Official, why are you looking for me today? Gu Mengmeng asked with a smile. Official Su Xian smacked his head and said, Oh, right. I almost forgot. Gu Mengmeng held on to Elvis's arm and held back her laughter, asking, What is it? Say it. Official Su Xian said, Ellie wants to join the Solder tribe, so I am here to bid farewell to you. In the beast world, it was common sense that male passions would follow the females wherever they went. Ellie had 9 partners, but now, only this official Su Xian and another male partner whom Gu Mengmeng could not remember even though he looked familiar came to bid farewell to her. It could be seen that these two still had feelings for Saint Nazir. Gu Mengmeng kept her smile and nodded, saying, All right, I understand. Although you will no longer be tribesmen of Saint Nazir in the future, don't forget that Saint Nazir used to be your home. Have you all remembered the method I taught everyone to store food before winter? Before winter this year, bring the males in your family to prepare more food, don't let the females eat you all up when they are hungry. Official Su Xian scratched his head and gave an embarrassed smile, saying, You don't blame us for leaving Saint Nazir? Gu Mengmeng said, I'd rather tear down 10 temples than ruin a marriage. I can't possibly force you to give up your own happiness and stay in Saint Nazir as bachelors for the rest of your lives. Official Su Xian hesitated for a moment and asked, Can I really use the method you taught me to store food for the winter? Don't worry, I will definitely not teach it to others. Gu Mengmeng nodded and said, Of course you can. It's up to you whether you want to teach it to others or not. Since I told you all, I have no intention of hiding it. Official Su Xian pursed his lips, as if he wanted to say something but was too embarrassed to do so. He hesitated for a long time, making Gu Mengmeng furious. He patted him on the chest and said, You weren't like this in the past. If there's anything you want to say, just say it. You're like a sissy. If you continue to blabber like this, don't say that you know me when you go out in the future. I'll find it embarrassing. Official Su Xian's face turned even redder after being teased by Gu Mengmeng. He lowered his head like a child who had done something wrong and asked softly, Then, will you still give us the salt to marinate the meat? Gu Mengmeng thought for a while and said, Salt is a resource of Saint Nazir. You are no longer a tribesman of Saint Nazir, so I naturally cannot provide salt to you for free. However, you can use prey of equivalent value to exchange with us. As for the exact method of exchange, I will go back and discuss with Elvis before telling you. Official Su Xian hurriedly nodded. As long as he was willing to exchange, it was good. After all, Gu Mengmeng was the messenger of the beast deity and all the males in the world would be proud to provide her with food. Moreover, with Elvis's hunting abilities, Gu Mengmeng would never lack food. So, her willingness to exchange was actually a form of taking care of him. This thought made official Su Xian extremely grateful. He felt even more guilty for leaving Saint Nazir because of his mating. Hence, he promised again and again that he would not tell anyone about the secret of marinating the meat. Even if Ellie asked, he would not say anything. Gu Mengmeng really wanted to say, Actually, it's fine even if you say it. Chapter 419. After official Su Xian left, Gu Mengmeng and the other two returned to their temporary house. The three of them had a tacit understanding not to mention what Cole had said to him, and also did not ask Leah about the past where he was hurt again and again. Instead, they were discussing another matter regarding Cole. Gu Mengmeng said, If Ellie was sent by Sauter to stay by my side, then her motive shouldn't be just to trick 9 males from Saint Nazir to mate with, right? Although she's a half-orc, but with her looks and tricks, there should be quite a number of males who are willing to mate with her. Leah said, I also find it very strange, not only about Ellie wanting to join Sauter, but also the offering ceremony just now. Cole actually did not try to separate Elvis and I from you, nor did he create any chance for himself to perform, and even said some things that made you uncomfortable on the way back. This is really not his style. Elvis remained silent, he did not say a word and just frowned. Gu Mengmeng looked at Elvis and asked, Hubby, what's wrong with you? Are you still upset because of Cole? Elvis looked into Gu Mengmeng's eyes and nodded. Gu Mengmeng laid on Elvis's thighs obediently and looked up at his blue eyes, asking, Is it because he said he wants to be my beast pet? Don't worry, I won't rear a beast pet. Elvis raised his eyebrows and glanced at Leah from the corner of his eyes, asking with a smile, Why not? Most beast pets are obedient and know how to please you, unlike me who always do things that make you angry. Gu Mengmeng giggled and said, Obedient and adorable males, I have already given birth to 4 of them. Hedda and the other 3 are the ones who know how to please me the best in this world. Upon hearing that, Elvis's face darkened. He frowned and asked, "Miss them?" Gu Mengmeng nodded. She had been busy with the recruitment these few days and realized that she had neglected Li's emotions today. The physical and mental fatigue made her want to retreat and return to that cave to hug her sons and give them a good rub. Gu Mengmeng touched Elvis's tail from time to time, saying, "I wonder if they cried when I was not around. Did they eat properly? Did they miss me a lot?" Elvis laughed coldly and said, "Have you seen a wolf cry before?" Gu Mengmeng was taken aback. She tried hard to recall, then shook her head. Elvis kissed Gu Mengmeng's forehead and said, "Although I don't really like them, but they have inherited our powerful genes. If they want to die just because their mother beast is not around, then there's no need for such trash to exist." Gu Mengmeng glared at him and said, "Who are you calling trash? You're the useless one. Your entire neighborhood is useless." Elvis sighed. "You are throwing a tantrum at me because of them again." Gu Mengmeng pursed her lips, feeling rather guilty. Elvis shook his head and rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head, sighing softly, "I dislike them more and more. Why don't you consider Leah? I feel that interacting with Leah is much easier than interacting with those four fellows." Gu Mengmeng smiled apologetically and said, "Don't be like this, my son is also very easy to get along with." "Really?" Elvis raised his brows. "Really? But why do I become so irritable when I see them?" Gu Mengmeng mumbled, "Because you might have rabies." "Elvis, what?" "You're tuning in to the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.